House.
Yeah. Island Podcast. Island Podcast. Welcome aboard to the ship in the Streakers Island Podcast. I'm bringing back the crazy energy intro. It is I, Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed sports analyst. I'm joined by the guy who truly knows the NBA, so I think maybe he should be the self-proclaimed sports analyst, but he's Lane Dash and Dashco.
Got a haircut.
And if you want to hear NBA takes, if you want to hear
Jacob
NBA
used to take notes. That's how good a haircut can look.
Yeah, like look, let's get the feet on.
Yeah, look at that blow. See how good you could look to your emo comb.
There's nothing wrong with my haircut.
Oh, blow, it's terrible.
I've been told.
Oh, you'd be like
me
me, just have no hair. See how great that is? I had nothing to worry about.
No comment on that, Mr. Moore. But if you want to hear basketball takes from a man who knows absolutely nothing about basketball, you got to listen to Mr. Moore for your money.
Woo!
I think Dan just hopes both teams have fun tonight. I think that's his goal.
I want to see a fight. Why do we see more fights in basketball? I mean, with giant human beings. They're like 7 feet tall and like, I don't know, 260 pounds. They'd be pretty good at fighting.
Because they actually suspend you when you fight.
Well, that's just stupid. They want to bring up sales and ticket sales and TV revenue. But I saw LeBron James fight, like, I don't know, Steph Curry. I would actually watch it. That sounds interesting.
Well, there's a crazy take to get us in the game too. Will we see a fight? You know what? If that was a prop, I would put 100% no. We will not see a fist fight, and I'd probably get the prop right.
I mean, you never know.
Anything's possible when Timothy goes to school, which is what the Pacers felt like when they won Game 1 on the road, clear underdogs, stole the game on a very surprising play. Like, Lane, I don't know about you, but I was really surprised when the Pacers didn't call a timeout there when they got the ball back with 5 seconds left. But I guess their coach just trusts their players to make a play.
That's right. It's all about Tyrese Halliburton, and we're going to get into him. But, man, he is him right now. And I know we threw the Jordan like out there before, but we might be having another Jordan comparison right now in Tyrese Halliburton, as now it's official that Tyrese Halliburton is the only player since Michael Jordan to get a game-winning shot or game-tying shot in the first 4 rounds of the playoffs. He is only 4 away from being the all-time leader from LeBron James, and he already has 4 this postseason. So he's him, man.
Wowzers.
That's pretty cool.
You do feel like every team that goes on a run needs someone to kind of take control. But I think we still, and I know you boys didn't agree with it, but you still also got to give some props to Pascal Siakam. You know what? He's been to the finals before. You can see that calm energy from him on the bench. And he knows that at some point, even though he might be the number 2 option, I think at some point he'll have an explosive game in this series. Maybe even tonight, because I think OKC is going to be all over Halliburton, right? Which could open up the floor for Siakam. Kind of like when the Raptors won their championship.
Something.
Yeah, but I mean, he had 19 points in that game. It's not like he's not doing anything. And I would argue, you know what? He's
19 points in one game?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's very good.
And, the thing is, he's doing really well. It's just the fact that it's funny because you look at Tyrese Halliburton points. He only had 14 points in the game. And sometimes, if you look
14 is still a lot.
Sometimes he doesn't even get 10. Like, there's been games where I've seen him get 7 points, but the thing is, all these 7 points, they come at the most productive times. He's more of a playmaker kind of guy. He's not even known to be your typical guy to put it in the basket. But lately, when they've been needing these key plays, and this is what's been so great about what he's been able to do, is when the game comes down to those last 2 minutes, it feels like he's Mr. Invincible and no one can stop him.
I mean, a hockey player gets 1 goal in a game, everyone's happy. So 19 points or 14 points sound pretty good to me.
A little different in the NBA, Mr.
I
Montfort,
know. I'm just kidding.
I know, but
like
I
40
will
points
say-
would be impressive.
do you guys
actually,
think?
they get 40 points?
Do you guys think that maybe OKC underestimated the Pacers a little bit in Game 1?
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, I feel like they're.
I
relying-
wonder that, right? Because they had a pretty big lead, and the Pacers have been the team. They've been kind of like the Oilers in the NHL playoffs this year, right? They've been able to win a lot of come from behind games and taking a big stretch like Lane just did. And it's something this team's been very, very, very good with, right? And I think if you're OKC, you need your star players to really step up.
Well, it's also not only that, but they need to spread it around. Like you see, like in here, they had 11. The Pacers had 11 more assists than OKC in this game.
Wow.
And you know, when you're passing the ball around, it feels like. And I'm not saying SGA or Shai Julius Alexander is a selfish person, but like it feels like they're not passing the ball around. I mean, he had 38 points. Everyone else had 12 or 11. You look at the Pacers in Game 1. Everyone, and I mean everyone, all 5 starters were above 15 points per game. So
That's
they were-
impressive.
yeah, so you saw how the Pacers were playing. They were playing a team game where everyone was generating assists, everyone was passing the ball, helping out, and it felt like the OKC just went, "Here's Shea, just go out and do everything." And yeah, he kind of did, but at the same point, they didn't come up with the win.
Now, is that a problem too when you're built around? I think, and you can correct me if I am wrong, Lane. But I mean, we saw in Game 1 the Pacers bench really outplayed OKC's. Are the Pacers? I think they're more built around depth scoring,
For
where
sure.
OKC's more built around the Hamilton product getting it done.
You're 100% correct. They do really heavy rely on SGA to do mostly of the heavy lifting, and I mean it has worked. They were the first conference team, right? Like they're
Yeah.
first place for a reason, and you know you can't take away from what SGA does on a game-to-day basis. The way he goes and puts up 35 points every night and is one of the most dominant players on the court, and that's actually really exciting for Canadian basketball to get into it. If you're looking to get in, if you're a Canadian that doesn't really watch the NBA, here's just a guy you can really get behind. He's very talented. He's one of them. Every night he's going to go out there and play like a young Steph Curry. He's still very young in his NBA career. He's very flashy. He makes great shots from everybody, but it just felt like in this game, like you said, Jacob, the Pacers were more relevant. They're more of a team. They're more of a team, really. They're passing the ball around, and I think what's really affecting them, especially in this game, the thing that I couldn't believe was the rebounds. And for those who don't know, rebounds is a huge part because you know when you miss a shot or you get the ball back, that's kind of the rebound. So you're getting the ball back every time there's a missed shot. And for the Pacers to have 17 rebounds more, that's a problem. And
That's a
got
huge
to
number.
like that's not just that's not just like a little bit. That's a lot,
That's a
right?
lot.
You're not getting your own balls back when you're missing opportunities. So you're giving more chances for the Pacers to climb back here. And I think if they're going to win tonight, they got to clean up those rebounds. They got to rely on Chet Holmgren, who's one of their centerpieces, and Isaiah Hardington there. These guys need to step up some more and get these rebounds and control that rebound game, or it's going to be trouble. They might even lose Game 2.
That's a great point about Chet too, because like he wasn't very much of a factor in Game 1, and I think for Game 2, do you maybe need him to get in that 12 to 15 rebound area?
Oh,
He
sure.
gets in there, that rebound gap now is a heck of a lot smaller, right?
Yeah.
So I think for OKC, they need to do that, and I would also say they need to find a way to free up SGA. I know we did put up 38, but you could see the Pacers were really focusing on containing his floor space. So maybe that's got to be more screens, more off-ball passes, and just trying to get the ball moving around more, which is what you mentioned, Lane, too, about
Shades.
Mr. Shades says, I think he wants to shop at the Gap. I kid. But small Gap.
Yeah.
Gap
Yeah.
indeed.
The Gap is a great place. I never used to go to the Gap, but yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting game for sure. Like we'll see. Like it's like you said. I feel like you're going to be on SGA, so I feel like OKC just has to do a better job with passing the ball around and having to play more of a team game. And I think the SGA should be less focused on him taking all the shots and kind of being more of a team player and trying to open those shots for guys there are their players there. I feel like they just need to step up some more. Like Jalen Williams is a guy that I'm looking at. He needs to play better. He needs to be more of a two-star role if they're going to compete with Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton. They need a second star, and I feel like that's the guy that needs to step up here tonight.
The Gap
Well,
is a
and then
cool place.
Pardon, Dan?
The Gap is a cool place. I still like those classic Gap hoodies. I mean, but not as gangster as the Air Jordan hoodies, but the Air Jordan hoodies are pretty gangster too.
Now, I still wonder, though, maybe they need to shop at the Gap, and that'll just fix everything. But for OKC, maybe you just need to try to dedicate a rhythm and play more of a four-court offense. They were playing more of a half-court. And what I mean by a half-court offense is when you inbound the ball, you're basically everyone runs up to the front half, and then your point guard or whoever's leading the offense is kind of just walking in by himself. Then they sets up the offense. It's what the majority of teams do. For Mr. Dan, picture the drop pass of the NHL.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
power
Kind of
play.
like a power play, right?
Now, what I love to see and I'm wondering if OKC might switch to this, is a full court offense. It's quick inbound, quick pass up to about center, another quick pass to a corner, have a guy drive in, and hopefully that's either going to create an open three or a drive to the basket, right? And I don't know. I just think maybe that's a way OKC could open up their lanes and try to add some more pace and spacing to this one, because I think if you are going more half court and grit, I would argue the Pacers are a grittier team, which is funny. All four Canadian players in these finals. When I was watching a really interesting feature,
there's a lot,
yeah, four
There's
Canadians.
only, like 8 or 12 players on a team, right?
Yeah,
it's only 5 starters. If you think about that,
so 4 is pretty impressive. That's awesome.
Especially in SGA being arguably the best player in the NBA right now.
100%.
Go Canada, go!
Don't hurt your elbow.
To get into this conversation, this would be a cool conversation to have another time. But I'm telling you, Canada basketball is really developing. Like everyone's like, oh, it's not that good. They're getting up there. I think they're in the contention for the FIBA International Tournament. Like, for Team Canada. Like,
I think so too.
This is a team that's getting really they're getting disgustingly good at a rate where they're kind of underrated, and people are like, oh, it's Canada. They look like maple syrup, but
maple syrup's pretty good.
Well, it is. I was looking at their roster the other day. It's getting disgustingly good.
Wow.
So
watch out for Canada.
Now, the interesting thing is here, we talk about everything OKC needs to do better. At the end of the day, OKC did have the lead. I think, Elaine, you were saying the entire game until the end.
They had a 15-point lead up until the very last shot where the Independent Pacers, their one lead was a 1-point lead, and it was on the game-winning shot.
Wow.
I just can't believe that.
Yeah, if you're the Pacers, then you could argue you still may want to play similar, but maybe just try to improve a little bit. Like, I think they still want to stay really aggressive. Turnovers, I think, was a bit of an issue for the Pacers in that first game. Lane, I know you elaborated more on that, so maybe I'll just leave you the floor. I'll bring in our half-court offense and let Lane take charge here. And you know what? We see it, and Dan, you see it in hockey all the time too, right? When a team turns the puck over all the time, it really gets you in trouble. I'd argue in basketball it's almost worse because it's not like you have a
football too. Like, look how many teams went over the turnover game.
Well, exactly. We saw that a lot in the CFL in week 1, which we'll have a lot of that on our pre-record show coming up on Monday now. We'll be live on Monday with that show. We're not live, but like you know what I mean. But Lane, when you were talking about the turnover battle here, like, do you think that's something the Pacers have got to try to clean up?
For sure. The OKC generated, I'll just read you guys the numbers, 14 steals compared to 1. So 13 more steals. For the turnovers, OKC only turned over the ball 6 times. The Pacers turned the ball over 24 times. 13 of those were steals, 11 of those were bad passes. But here's the part that I don't understand. You think of how much time they had the ball. They had 16 more shots than the Pacers, and only 11 points of their total points came off those turnovers out of a potential 48. And even if you count in the threes, that's 60 to 70 points they could be having just on turnovers alone. And they were only able to get 11. To put that into comparison, the Pacers could have gotten 12 points at minimum off their turnovers, maybe 18 max. They were at least able to get 4. Now, and you could say 4 compared to 12 is not bad. But when you look at 11 compared to almost 60 to 70 points, even if they make like 20% of those, this game's not close. We're not talking about Tyrese Halliburton being the game-winning game hero guy. We're talking about how this is a blowout and that the Pacers are going to get destroyed, but they weren't able to capitalize off their turnovers. And that's something that in any sport, especially football, hockey, you got to capitalize when you get the ball from the other team. And unfortunately, OKC just wasn't able to capitalize when they had a free chance to go down there and get an extra 2 points.
And do you wonder then does that go back to when we were talking about the pace of OKC? Do they just need to be a bit more aggressive? Like when they're creating a turnover, right? And you see it all the time when teams get turnovers, you need to create points off of turnovers. Actually, another prime example, Dan, Dan and I, we are brothers, and you might be able to tell we're two very good looking guys and not as dashing as Lane, but
no,
when we were watching that game, and yes, Streakers Gaming is a big game tonight, and of course, we're going to have some big challenges in the Streakers app for it. But when we look at turnovers, I want to take it back to the Hamilton Tiger Cats versus Calgary Stampeders. People are saying, like, Jacob Moore, self-proclaimed sports analyst. Why you bring this back to the CFO? Because I feel like it. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats created 3 turnovers and only managed to get 3 points.
Yeah.
Right, basically lost them that game. I think OKC did the exact same thing in game 1. They created all these turnovers. Go ahead, Dan.
Me being Mr. Calculator, I heard a number 6 and 24. That means the Pacers, KC had 4 times the turnovers. When the Pacers, there's no way you can win a game if you turn over 4 times. Well, I don't care what game it is, how good you are, how bad the other team is. You got 4 times the turnovers. There's no way you're winning any sport.
But they still did. That's the crazy thing, Dan. That's the thing. They still had, even with 4 times more turnovers, they still won the game.
Wow.
That's what's unbelievable to me. Like,
that's a close-up to the camera moment. This is insane that somehow the Pacers were able to win that game with turning the ball over that much. And Dan, you say right away, you can't win when you turn the ball over that much. Well, the Pacers just said, hold my beer. But I don't think they want to do that again. This is way too close.
No, for sure. Let's be honest, right? Like, the OKC is the heavy favorites. Even tonight, even after what happened in game 1, they're still considered the heavy favorites by a wide margin. I don't think anyone expects the Pacers to do this again, but they have stolen 1 game at home. And I think that is huge in the NBA Finals that they were able to come into game 1 as an underdog, as a team that wasn't even looked at to maybe get this sort of like they didn't predict that this was 5 games. People said the Pacers don't even have a chance in this series.
Well,
don't forget, they are 1-0.
Don't forget, boys, I did challenge you this morning on the Streakers app to a rivalry, and I picked the Indiana Pacers because I think I'm going to take all that momentum from game 1 and just carry it away on to game 2. So we'll see who gets the streaker points tonight.
Now, my bigger question is then, do you guys think if OKC loses this game tonight, they're done? You're going down 0-2. I mean, they're the better team in theory, but they haven't been able to handle Indiana's ball movement whatsoever. And if you go down 0-2, you're in trouble.
For sure. I would say it's a massive concern. Like, it's just in any sport, right? Like, your best of 7, right? You're talking about any sport going down 0-2 and losing both games at home. I think that's a major concern because then you're going into Indiana where they're going to have the home court advantage, and that home crowd's going to be unbelievable going into game 3 for the support there. You gotta win. You gotta win tonight if you're OKC. You just have to.
Now, well, I think Dasco, can I ask a question since I don't know much about basketball?
What's up?
When you have home court advantage, is it just like your fans screaming when the other team shoots the free throws, or is there an actual advantage like last change or something like that?
Well, the biggest advantage is like because throughout the game it's a lot more loud, right? There's music playing. When you go to a basketball game, there's a lot more music. There's a lot more depending on the team. Like, for example, I'll use Toronto. When Toronto has the ball, they're playing Drake, so everyone's singing Drake songs and trying to get the team pumped up. And then they're of course when the free throws, which is a big thing when you have the ball and you're trying to shoot one basket, the crowds for you is dead quiet. You get the dead silent treatment where you get to focus on your shot, where the other team is you're hearing for entire 10 seconds. So you definitely have the more of the noise in your head for when you have the ball compared to when your team is, where the crowd's more vibing to music and happy and cheering. So there's more of an advantage in that sense, not so much like the changing, but it's just how the fans are a lot more louder and they're more supportive when you have the ball compared to when the other team where they're just chanting defense and fumble and drop the ball, and you'll see a lot of like Pascal. You'll see like a lot more of those.
Kind of like chanting and stuff.
Yeah, like chanting, taunting. You hear a lot of that in basketball.
Okay.
So that's more that the advantage is more in the crowd, but it is definitely an advantage.
Okay,
But there isn't. It isn't like in hockey where it's more like the advantage in. I'd compare it more to advantage in football. As much as football, I think there's more of an advantage of different styles of turfs.
Kind of football is a similar way, yeah.
Well, football's a similar way. Like, think about it, Dan. When let's say your team's up by 2 points with 30 seconds left, the offense is called timeout to try to set up a play, but the stadium is rocking so loud they can't even hear the coach.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
And it's all the taunting, and also too, you know what? You're more comfortable in your own building, in your own locker room, your own facilities, your own practice court.
Yeah, you forget they get to warm up in the court. A lot of these places, especially in the NBA, they get to warm up in their own building. They don't have to go to another building because a lot of the practice courts are built in the same arena. So they're just going from one hallway down to the next hallway. They're not going very far. It's not like they have to travel where the other team has to find a facility outside of the building to practice and then find their way in. They don't get those practice facilities in the building. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Now, my big question is here. Obviously, I think someone's going to have to provide a spark. And I'm seeing around of other places online and whatnot. A lot of people saying Jalen Williams is a guy that might provide a spark. For sure. So how could he provide a spark, Lane?
Got to get more points. He's got, like I just said, he has to be more points. Him and Josh Giddey. I think Giddey's another one you got to look at. He's got to pass the ball some more. He's got to get Williams open. They can't just rely on SGA. Like, it's not going to work because if the Pacers are playing a team game, you're just relying on one guy. I'm sorry, I don't think that's going to work against this team because either they're just going to start crowding SGA, and if he has 28 points and, not his usual 30, 34, and you're not getting anything from your other guys. Another guy who's been really quiet, in my opinion, who's actually been a key player I hope I'm going to mispronounce his name, but Luenze Dort. He needs to be way bigger. He's usually more of a three-point shooter. I have not noticed him in this playoffs. He's a guy I think that needs to step up for OKC. He's been really quiet in this postseason. I think he needs to be a bit better for the OKC.
Yeah, I think OKC you just need more balance, right? Like, we haven't seen a balanced offense from them. Although I don't know, Lane, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the whole playoffs it's more been relying on SGA that has been of a balanced scoring. Where I think the Pacers are more relying on a balanced scoring. So it's interesting. What's more important, best player in the league, or maybe a couple top 10 players in the league of like Halliburton and Siakam? So
it's weird because they did such a good job. The OKC Thunder have done such a good job shutting down top players, right? You look at what they did against the Minnesota Timberwolves when we were talking about that series about Anthony Edwards and how Anthony Edwards was this superstar that everyone thought this is his era. They're calling it the Edwards era. Like, they're like, oh, he's going to come in here. He's going to get 40 points every day. And they held him to almost nothing. But I just feel like, especially against the Pacers in game one, they just really didn't do enough to shut them down, where it felt like like I said, you see how the movement and how the way the Pacers attacked this game, which was more of a team game, getting everyone involved, especially when everyone's getting 15 points. Like, that can't happen. You need to stop. Someone's got to be shut down there, and they got to play a tighter defensive game here and not let the Pacers kind of dictate the player, especially in your home building here.
Right, exactly. Makes sense. Because you kind of losing advantage of home court at that point, right?
For sure. It's huge.
Well, I think especially if you go down 2-0. Now, I'm not saying they will go down 2-0. Like, I think there's a very good probable chance that the Thunder make it a tied series. But I would even say, even if the Thunder win tonight, I still think the Pacers have control.
Oh, for sure.
Until they lose at home, they have control.
I would agree. Yeah, that's 100%. You did the one thing you're supposed to do. You came in and you won a game on the road, right? Like, that's in any advantage when it's best of 7 and you only have, you're going to have to face them 4 times. You have to beat them once, and you already have, right? You already have the advantage. If you can just go and you can go back to Indiana and win 2 there, you put the series up 3-1, and it's a best of 3 where you've got all you need is one more win, right?
Yeah.
Now, I still think the Thunder can very well come back in this
Oh, for
series.
sure.
This is a very good team. And as much as SGA put up big numbers, I just think they need more of a balanced offense. You can find a way to get more balanced offense and create more points on turnovers. You look at all the turnovers. If you get those amount of turnovers again and just even create points off 10% more, you'll win.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So
100%. 100%.
I think the Pacers still need to clean things up, as we talked about, right? I think the Pacers, their turnover game has been a legitimate issue. But is there any, I don't know if there's any indications about a player getting into foul trouble early, but let's say, for example, Siakam has had that issue off and on in these playoffs. We've seen him get into foul trouble early. If you're OKC, maybe you try to bait Siakam into some fouls, kind of like we see Sam Bennett trying to bait everyone to slash him in the nuts. By the way, I agree with Ovechkin. If I was a millionaire, it'd be well worth the money to do it. And you know what? Maybe you, by the way, that is not me saying I want to assault anyone. Don't worry. I like salt, but I don't like assault. But I think you could see OKC maybe trying to get it where, you know, a Siakam has to come out early. He gets 3 fouls in the first quarter. You got to pull him. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
so
I think that's a huge advantage right now for the home court, especially is trying to get them into early foul trouble and send yourself to the line. It's such an advantage because then if you, like you said, Jacob, you only get 6 fouls before you're ejected from the game. And if you can get one of their starting players to, 2 or 3 early on, you're not seeing them till the third. Honestly, you may not even see them till the third quarter. So you might have a whole second quarter of an advantage where you got a bench player out against a starter. And that's and it's not like in a hockey where, when your fourth line's out against your first line, it's a pretty balanced thing. When it's your starter against a bench player, it's not even close to the advantage that you have because the bench players.
Think about with the free throws too. If you foul and get free throws, you got the home court for that, right?
Yeah, for sure. You get the
That's a big advantage too. Get that done when you're at home.
Yeah, well, so I'm looking to see if OKC can. They call it the bonus, which is where like you can accumulate so many fouls early in a half, you can get to the free throw every time you get a foul. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see if the OKC can maybe take advantage of that tonight and try to get into the bonus early tonight. I think that would be huge.
Could you guys see the Pacers being a little too over aggressive and maybe getting into some foul trouble? I could.
Yeah, I could. Looking to get maybe trying to get too aggressive here and trying to get that win. And for sure, they didn't play a perfect game. I'm not trying to sit here. I know we've talked a lot about OKC's mistakes, but the Pacers have made a lot of mistakes too, right? They turned the ball over. Their passing was not great. A lot of troubles with the steals, of course. 13 more steals. They got to clean up those. You got to clean up those mistakes because if you do that again, like you said, even 10% of even like 10 more, that we're not talking about how this game is close. So it's not like the Pacers are all happy, hunky dory that we played this fantastic game. They really didn't. But the thing they did was they were able to get some good play on their defense when they did turn the ball over. And I think OKC, for them to win tonight, they're going to have to be a little bit quicker when they get their turnovers, get their advantage, to take advantage and actually put the ball in the hoop.
100%. But it's interesting with the Pacers, and Dan, you and I have talked about this a lot with the Oilers. So the Pacers have won more come from behind games than any other team in the playoffs. I know there's only 2 teams left.
Yeah, you're saying that.
Going into the second round. So Dan, do you think the Pacers maybe feel like the Oilers, and no matter, even if they're down by 20 points or 10 minutes left, they feel like they can probably come back?
Well, 100%, especially in a game like basketball when it's like a fast-paced offensive game. You can go on a big, 20 or 4-1 or something like that. You can really flip the score and flip the court, right? Really have the advantages and momentum all in your favor. And especially if you're try and steal it from home and all of that, that could be huge.
I agree with Dan. He's 100% right in that. Runs are big in NBA.
Dan, how do you feel about being right in a conversation about basketball?
I'm proud of myself.
No, you know what? That's where basketball and lacrosse, it's the only thing those 2 sports have in common is runs, right? It's really all about, and that's the thing. I think the Pacers feel like they can go on a run at any time to get back in a game. But OKC, I think they just need to come out even more aggressive. You come out really aggressive, create some turnovers, get to a lead early, and then just don't let up. Because you blah, 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 blah. You think about it too. I couldn't speak there. I'm so excited to say my point that I literally couldn't speak. But you think about SGA.
Yeah.
To stop him, the Pacers are going to double team him, right?
Oh, for sure.
So that's got to open up someone else. So I think if you're SGA, I don't know this for sure. Maybe he's not a big passer, but maybe he needs to read his Basketball for Dummies book and learn how to pass. And you know what? Instead of getting 38 points, maybe put up 24, but get 10, 11 assists.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. I do
Look
think
how good Kawhi Leonard was that in the Raptors run back in 18-19. Wow, that was a long time ago.
I gotta give a shout out to my friend Daryl. I don't know if he's watching or not. He's up in London, but
he's always watching.
I used to work with him, and we would I would go jump on the Raptors bandwagon in 2019, and he would always explain to me what's going on. So thank you for that.
So Lane, too, like both of these cities have not won a championship, if I'm correct, either.
No, they have not.
So how big is this for either one of these markets?
Did the Pacers win? I might have to make.
I don't think they did.
I know they had Reggie Miller. I'll make sure.
I don't think they did, but
I know the Thunder have not.
No, they definitely have not. But I mean, I think this is big for both of these.
The Pacers have won 3 championships, but they were in the 70s. 1970, 72, and 73.
Well, it feels like the Leafs. They haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah, it's almost as long. The Leafs are 67, and not even 10 years behind. So,
oh my gosh, don't remind me of that.
I mean, it is a long time. I mean, I'd say it's pretty relevant.
So, I mean, you look at these, I think both of these teams are very hungry for a championship. So,
yeah, for sure.
What do you guys think a point spread is? Like, difference in maybe 6 points at the most again?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close.
I'm going to say 6. Point spread is 6 points.
3.
3. Dan, what are you saying for a point spread?
8.
So, Dan's calling for a little bit more of a team taking a run. So, Dan, you're picking the Pacers by 8.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
I did
Mr.
pick the Pacers, and I said 8. So yeah, Pacers.
I'm gonna go on a wild prediction. He's done it 4 times before. I think we're gonna see it again. I think Tyrese Haliburton game-winning shot again.
Whoa!
I think it's gonna be number 5 tonight, boys.
OKC is too good not to win a game at home to start off. They're not going to go down 0-2. KC is going to win by 6. I think the turnover game is going to be a bigger factor, and they're really going to capitalize that. I think the Pacers will turn the ball over a little less, but OKC is still going to create enough turnovers and turn those into points with a full court offense. None of this half court BS. Full court. That's what they got to do.
Maybe it's a crunch of shit.
And I think whoever team's going to win is going to get all 5 players involved and even get some points way off the bench too.
Well, and see, that's where, Dan, when you say the Pacers, it makes sense if that's how you feel. Because the Pacers bench outscored OKC quite a bit.
Like,
it all
comes down depth with a big playoff one like this. When you're relying on just a couple guys in the 4th round now, they played an 82-game season. They're getting tired at this point, right?
Well, no one plays 82 games in the NBA.
You guys said, and Jacob, I got a question for you. Do you think, you mentioned Siakam, right? Do you think that comes with experience? Like, we look at SGA, he's very young. He's very young. And
OKC's a young team in general, are they not?
They're pretty young because they tanked for quite a bit to get some of these players. Like even Josh Giddey, he's a pretty young player too. So you wonder if it's some of the age experience, and you got a guy like Siakam who's been to the finals, right? He knows.
Well, that's why I think it was such a big move for the. That's why I think it was such a big move for the Pacers to get Siakam. It's not that he's an elite player, because he is. But he's also a guy that's gonna bring in some experience to a team, right? And Siakam's a great number 2.
He is,
and clearly Halliburton's your main guy on that team. But yeah, it was just like the Raptors when you had Kawhi. I mean, you could almost argue Siakam was a number 3 because it was really Kyle Lowry's team, even though Kawhi Leonard was the top player. Which there's rumors Kyle Lowry might be coming back to Toronto.
That would be awesome.
I would
love that.
I would be happier than a Toronto Maple Leaf winning Game 7.
Unrelated comment before we go here, but it's funny when I bought my first Raptor jersey, I was in the store and I was deciding on who to buy, and I was like, I had DeRozan and I had Lowry, and I was like, Kyle Lowry sucks. I'm gonna put this jersey back. DeRozan's the guy, and my friend was like, I think you should pick Lowry. I'm like, what substance have you been smoking? DeRozan is our boy. He's going to be here forever. Little did I know I was the wrong one.
I will say, though, I was stunned when the Raptors traded DeMar. I was mad, actually. I was legitimately pissed at the time. And it worked.
Well, it's like, look, we talked about our Leaf pregame, Leaf blow-up show. You know, do the Leafs need to take a page out of Raptors' book and trade a big guy for a big guy? Like what the Raptors could give them credit. Yeah, suckily lost a guy like Lowry and DeRozan, but hey, we got a championship out of it. So
Well, you might see it
in
this
the end,
year.
it was worth it.
You might see it this year. Scotty Barnes for Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Whoa.
That is a whole argument that we don't have time for right now, but
You might see it.
Called it here on the island.
I think it's time we go and check out this actual game.
Yeah.
We may be back for. I'm kind of leaning towards doing a post game show.
Yeah.
Just FYI viewership. So if you want a post game show, send me a message at streakersislandpodcast@gmail.com or put it in the comments on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. That is an email lane, by the way.
Is it really?
streakersislandpodcast@gmail.com.
Right
I
on.
made it with my very two hands and a computer. But thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I am the self-proclaimed sports analyst, Mr. Jacob Moore. We have the one man who actually knows anything about basketball out of the three of us, and Lane Dash and Dash Go. But I think Dan and I did okay.
Yeah.
I think we did okay for our first
Yeah.
time.
And you have Mr. More for your money.
Woo!
More for your money, less for your balls. See you in the post game.
Okay.